Good evening and welcome to the joint City Council and Ceres Finance Authority meeting of Monday, October 12th, 2020. This meeting will be held in accordance with Executive Order N2920 issued by California Governor Gavin Newsom on March 17th, 2020. The Ralph M. Brown Act, California Government Code Section 54950 et seq., and the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act. This meeting will not be physically open to the public. All members of the public may participate and comment via the application Zoom. Zoom meeting information and call-in information was posted on the agenda and on the city's website. Remote public comment is also available by emailing the city clerk at cityclerk@ceres.ca.us. The city clerk will read your comment into the record during the public comment period. Roll call, please.
Council and Agency Member Condit.
Here.
Council and Agency Member DeRosset.
Here.
Council and Agency Director Member Klein.
Here.
Mayor and Vice Chairperson Rhino. I apologize. Vice Mayor, Chairperson Rhino.
Here. We can stand for the invocation by Pastor Connors with the Ceres First Baptist Church. Diane, he needs to be unmuted.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here, everyone. Please join me in a word of prayer as I ask God's blessings on the proceedings tonight. Heavenly Father, I thank you for our city, and I pray that you would bless these proceedings tonight, and that you would give a blessing upon all those who live here in Ceres and raise their families here. For those who have businesses here, for those who make a living in Ceres, we pray for your good towards us, Lord. We ask for that. Give us grace that we may know safety and success as residents in this town. Father, your word tells Christians that we should pray for all who are in authority. So tonight I ask for blessing upon this council, upon the proceedings that they will be involved with tonight. Give them your wisdom. Give them faithfulness. Let them operate in integrity and honesty and with genuine hearts of service for their fellow citizens. Be with our police officers and with the men and women of the fire department. We pray that you would bless them and help them, protect them as they seek to serve and protect us. Grant them also safety and success in their duties, that they might have a sense of accomplishment and feel good about their work, as well as to receive the thanks of a grateful city. Provide for our city, we pray, that we might live in peace and that we might learn to give you thanks, being grateful for all your many blessings. I pray this in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we have a presentation by Stanislaus Animal Services Agency, the annual report. Ms. Patton, are you there?
I am here, and I'll give me 2 seconds and I'll be happy to share my screen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Good evening. My name is Annette Patton. I'm an Executive Director for Stanislaus Animal Services Agency. Tonight I'm going to present you the annual report for 2019-2020. This report brings the highest live release rate in all of Stanislaus Animal Services history. I've said that for 4 years straight now, but it's true. The positive results come from the extraordinary work and contributions of many, to include all the adopters, the rescue partners, animal welfare foundations, to include the Petco Foundation, Maddie's Fund, and Best Friends Animal Society, the amazing pet community, the dedicated staff, and the board we have for support. This is my favorite picture of the year. Never would I have dreamed that the agency would empty the kennels here. And that's probably not very impressive to most of you who don't realize that on any given day, 7 days a week, we have 400 to 500 animals, pets, here to care for. And so when COVID-19 hit back in March, we did not know what was expected to happen. We did not know what the future was yet to hold. I didn't know if I was going to have employees to care for pets or what was going to happen. So we literally took 3 full days and we sent all the pets, we cleared out the shelter, to foster homes. And those pets never came back because 80% of the foster families ended up adopting their pets. The other 20% found adopters to adopt the pets. So they all lived happily ever after. Community cats. So we have 10 years worth of data. Community cats, also known as trap, neuter, and release. We started the program back in 2013-14 with the Humane Society. And what this looked like is, as cats came into our shelter, we would release them after they were spayed and neutered with a clipped ear, which is the national sign of a cat that's already been spayed and neutered, to our local partner, Humane Society of Stanislaus County. They would release the cats right back out to the community where they came from. We got a grant a couple years later from Alley Cat Allies to support the efforts. And then the best grant, the Gold Star grant, which they have called, is from Best Friends Animal Society. That was issued in April 2018. What that looks like is they hired 2 full-time employees to work this community on nothing but cats. It's the only grant nationwide, they said, that their employees do not have to look for cats to trap. And a big production of these little cats come from series. They are the second highest intake of cats. Cats breed, I say, faster than rabbits. So we initially used to take in 10,000 cats a year. And that is a lot. Let's just be honest, that is a lot of cats. And cats do not breed all year long. Cats only breed when it's warm. So all of a sudden, when May comes around of every year, you have this huge influx of cats, like 100 cats a day that would come in. And about September is when it trickles off. And so everybody used to ask, well, why do you have 10,000 cats coming in, but at Christmas time you don't have any to adopt out? It's because at Christmas time they're not out there breeding. So you can see over time with all the efforts, we've had reduced the cat intake now to 5,000 cats, which is still way too many cats for this large community. We are considered a large shelter, but that is still way too many cats to intake in. The true honest numbers is the first week of July, which is usually our busiest week of the year. We may have 700 animals that we're requiring and limited staff to care for, feed, and clean up after every day. It's just something has to be done differently. Our cat live release rate for the past fiscal year is 82%. That may not sound great, but that is a wonderful number. It's the best number ever. That means 82% of the cats that come to the shelter leave alive. It used to be 9% 10 years ago. Only 9% of the animals that came to the shelter would leave alive, just because of the sheer volume in this county. Reasons for euthanasia are, we do perform a service for the community. Owner requested euthanasia, so if Fluffy's 25 years old and it's time for him to cross the rainbow, that's 4% of the euthanasia reasons. The other reason, the 14%, are these medical, they're called medical pre-weaned kittens. That means if Fluffy, your neighbor's cat, has 12 kittens in your backyard, and you bring them to the shelter, those are the first that have to be euthanized because they cannot live alone. SASA and Best Friends Animal Society, again, was the best partnership. I hate for them to leave, but that we are in the transition program. They are leaving in April 2021. They are the ones who have been on site, 2 full-time employees. They have dedicated, Best Friends Animal Society has dedicated nearly $900,000 to this community by paying the salaries and paying all the spay and neuter surgeries at all the local veterinarians in Stanislaus County. We do not have the surgical capacity to spay and neuter the volume of cats that are coming in. So they do take them at their own expense, Best Friends' expense, to have them spay and neutered at the local veterinarians. We did receive another huge grant from the Petco Foundation. They saw that when you did the life-saving gap analysis, because life-saving is what it's all about for the Petco Foundations and Best Friends, is our pre-weaned kittens. So they have hired us 2 grants. They hired us 2 foster care coordinators. So these foster care coordinators are strictly in charge of trying to get these little young kittens that need to be bottle fed out to foster homes on a very quick turnaround within a matter of hours. We did receive another grant of $18,000, which may not sound a lot to you, but it is to us because we have a very small, limited budget. What these cat portals do is provide this little opening you see with the cat between 2 stainless steel kennels. So the cats, when they're here for their small visit, they have a separate area to have their litter box, food and water, and a separate area to sleep. Our dog live release rate is the highest it's ever been. So yes, I do say that deserves a woof woof and a yoo-hoo. Our live release rate for dogs is 97%. That is definitely 90% and above is considered a no-kill status. The reasons for euthanasia is 1.5% is medical. If your dog gets hit by a car, that falls under that qualification, or from extreme medical conditions. Owner requested euthanasia. Again, that's a service we provide to the community. If your dog's Spot is 25 years old and it's time for him to cross over, we provide this very low cost. It's $40 to have Spot put to sleep, although you can't be there in person, but it's a very low income process that we have. Behavior, it's a 0.5%. So dogs who have attacked people or bit people do not belong back out into the community, and that's considered part of the euthanasia. Adoptions. So our #1 adopters here, and mind you, we take in tens and thousands of animals here annually. Our #1 adopters are coming from outside of Stanislaus County. Our #1 adopters are traveling over here from the Bay Area, from the mountain communities, to come here and adopt by volumes. Our second highest adopters are Modesto, and then just falls in order: Stanislaus County, the unincorporated area, Ceres, Patterson, Waterford, and Houston. We've got a lot of really good adoption stories. Recently, there is a big demand. I say that our dogs here must be dipped in gold. We did implement, the Board of Supervisors and the SASA Board implemented a new fee, giving us discretion to try to help us recoup our costs here. So on highly desirable dogs, they have a cost of $370 to adopt versus the $120 for the other dogs. We still have no complaints. That price has been implemented now for about 7 to 8 weeks. We have multiple people standing in line outside to get these highly desirable dogs from the Bay Area. They still think that they're still getting, for $370, a fully vaccinated dog, microchip dog, and a spayed neuter dog is still a good price to them. We have stories that are in abundance. For example, last couple Fridays ago, we had these 2 70-year-old ladies. They were just really fun people, but they were standing outside my front lobby, and it was like 5 o'clock on a Friday. So I went out and talked to them. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? And they go, hey, we're either going big or we're going home. We told my friend. They brought their martinis. They brought their dinner. They were planning on staying out there for a dog that became available Saturday at noon. And they go, don't worry about us, honey, we're too old to stay the night out here. We hired some youngsters that are going to hold our place right here in the front of the line overnight. So we'll be back here in the morning. There's stories like that that go on and on and on. We have people that are driving from the Bay Area and getting hotel rooms over here so they can be close by to line up in the morning for the dogs. The impacts of COVID-19 have been fabulous. I'm probably one of the few department heads that has really appreciated the COVID-19, because it really allowed us to take a step back because we are so busy to the community. Pre-COVID-19, we would open our doors at 9 a.m. and try to provide all these different services that we just simply could not do with the volume of people that were coming through our door. It was the perfect time for us. We had just signed a contract with DocuPet. DocuPet is our new licensing agent. So that means that you can buy your dog license, purchase your dog license over the phone with DocuPet, which is something we could not have done before. You can do it online. Everything is handled through the DocuPet process. You no longer need to come to the shelter. You can stay at home and do that service. We have Acuity Scheduling, which is a program that allows the public to schedule their own appointments on our website, so we can give you better service when you have an actual appointment time versus 100 people trying to come through the front doors and clog up our front lobby. We implemented a program called Home to Home. Home to Home is just allowing the public to rehome their pet from their house to the new owner without coming to the shelter. So what this looks like is Home to Home interjects with our website and with our social media page. So it allows them to promote the pet without actually hitting the shelter, which is something we're trying to increase. We don't want animals in the shelters. Here's a sign of an example of a year ago when the first week of July when we had 703 pets in our custody versus moving a year forward during COVID time, we only had 172. Big difference. One of my biggest and strongest messages to the staff going through this whole process of the pandemic was it is not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change, because we've gone through a lot of change recently. We're changing the way we do animal services because you really have to. Snapshot of success. So nationwide, the biggest success rate was Texas, you can see, because they had a really low live release rate, so they increased it by 4%. Georgia increased theirs by 6%. California, who is still lacking a little bit, only increased by 1% nationwide. Pre-COVID, so this is California. Pre-COVID, the governor was going to give animal shelters $50 million, which was like a big hip hurrah because we don't get any kind of money from the state. And it was going to be administered through UC Davis Correct Shelter Medicine Program, which is the perfect administration of programs through Dr. Hurley there. Well, after pre-COVID, the 50 million became 5 million. We'll see how far that goes through the state of California, because that's not quite a lot of money, but it's something. We did receive a $45,000 donation for a new watering system. So I say these dogs here probably drink better water than maybe some of us at our homes, because she paid for a water filterization system and a water purifier. So they are drinking really good waters in each one of their kennels. Community outreach. So when I was putting the numbers together, last year, we are the busiest page on Stanislaus County's website, absolute busiest. And we knew we were. We were hitting about 1 million views each and every month on our website. So when I pulled the numbers, I really wanted to show the difference. We are averaging 2.1 million hits each and every month on our Stanislaus Animal Services page. 2.1 million hits each and every month. Our social media postings are averaging about 180,000 hits. We have a new slogan. It's called Community Working Together to Bring Pets Home. That is our overall goal. We want to make sure pets are in their homes and not at the shelter. You can see in the picture on the bottom left, this was another new process that we implemented due to COVID. It's called our drive-through vaccination clinic. So pet owners no longer need to come into the shelter and line up and not do the 6-foot distancing that we so much want to promote. Now everything is prepaid. They do it by an appointment. We can do a couple hundred cars. The veterinarian, as you see in the picture, just goes out to the cars, administers the shots, and continues the process with the next vehicle. It's much smoother, much easier. Questions?
Is there anyone on the council with questions for Ms. Patton? No? We're all good. Thank you very much. That was very informative.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, next we will go to citizen communication. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in City Council meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes for expression of non-agenda items. Matters under the jurisdiction of the City Council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the City Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Citizens are entitled to address the City Council on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. Public comments will now be accepted through Zoom. For those participating through the web, please raise your hand which is a little hand icon near the bottom of your screen to request to speak. If you are participating by telephone, please press *9 on your phone. The city clerk will call your name in the order the requests are received. When it's time for you to speak, the city clerk will unmute your microphone. City clerk, please provide the name of each person that has requested to speak.
Yes, Vice Mayor. The first person is Dave Pratt. Mr. Pratt, I'll unmute your mic.
Good evening, Mr. Pratt.
Yeah, this is Dave Pratt. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You know, I'm very unhappy for the fact that the last council meeting and another one is Zoom never came on. So I was unable to attend the meeting because you never turned Zoom on. The lack of transparency. Other than that, I'm hoping that pretty soon that we'll be able to hold where everybody can show up at a regular meeting instead of Zoom. That a lot of times, some reason people's mics are people you can't hear them, or they're so garbled you don't know what they were saying. Thank you.
Mr. Pratt, I'm not sure what the problem was last meeting for you because we did have an audience via Zoom.
I don't know why because it says I'm logged on, and it says I'm waiting for you to turn it on, and it never came on.
Maybe the next time you should go out and then log back on, but hopefully the next time we might be having our meetings in person. Is that correct, Mr. Westbrook?
We're going to consider opening the meetings as soon as we get some guidance from the state. So yes, we may be back to in-person meetings very soon.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Pratt, did you have anything else to say?
All right, I got muted again. The way this thing's coming up, does that mean I could turn on the video on mine and I'd have a video also?
I believe that if you show the video that we could see you while you're speaking. Is that correct, City Clerk?
As a attendee to the webinar mode, no, unless he was
Oh.
moved over to a panelist.
Oh,
You would
you
be
can't
able to.
do that. Sorry.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person on the list, Vice Mayor, is Gene Yakeley. I will unmute his mic.
Hi, Mr. Yeakley.
Yes, good evening. I know this sounds like a broken record. I've really had it with our community as far as the posting of the signage that comes up every so many years with political signs. It's become a circus carnival. I understand that that's the right to post these things. I've brought this up many times. I'm really disappointed in the majority of the people that are posting signs, county positions too, not just Series, of course, and people for running for congressman and what have you. And the tactics some of the people have presented are a little bit more mean than they've been in the past, tearing down signs and people putting up signs in their place. I've seen some in my own area where there was a candidate's too many signs, really. Now they're all gone and somebody else's sign is there. So I can't believe the attitude of these individuals, especially when they agreed to be a candidate and go by some rules. And again, we go to right away, how far a sign is in a rural area from a dirt road, from a paved road, how far the sign can be from the sidewalk. Most of these things you see, they're not doing, you know. They have right of way. They're on the right of way, but they're not posting them where they're supposed to, and distance and stuff. And correct me, Mr. Westbrook, if I'm wrong. You've probably seen quite a few of them yourself. I'm so disappointed at these people that can't go by a simple rule of running for a candidate that I'm really discouraged. What's this going to come to next? What are they going to do if they do win? Is there going to be some little thing that we need to know that's going to be pushed to the side? This is just one thing. Rules are rules. And I just can't understand why people can't go forward with the rules. And this makes me very disappointed. And, I really don't want to say this, but I'm actually considering not voting at all. That's how disappointed I am. And it only takes people to do the right things. And once they go out and look, they'll know they're not doing the right things. So excuse me if I'm wrong, but I think I have some room there to where I possibly could be right on part of the subjects here. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeakley.
Next person is Lee Brandt. I will unmute his mic. Mr. Brandt, your mic has been unmuted.
Good evening, Mr. Brandt.
Good evening, Council. I would just like to say that the animal service presentation was really great. It was great news to hear that the animals have been adopted or are being adopted. And then, not to sound like a broken record, but Mr. Westbrook, did you get any updates on Walmart?
Staff received a pack of information that we had been waiting for from Walmart last week. We expect that the item related to Walmart's final map consideration and the subdivision improvement agreement will be heard before the council on October 26th.
Now, Tom, do you know, is this going to be like a, I don't know the word. It's a revolutionary new type of Walmart. I saw a video on them, and it's really, really exciting. You know anything about the particulars on it yet?
Just what was approved with the building permit process. So we think that obviously a brand new store and new construction, they will probably be using a lot of the new concepts that they've developed around the country.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. All right. And everybody have a blessed night.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt.
Next person on the list is Supervisor DeMartini. Mr. DeMartini, I will unmute your mic. I think we had an issue last time, so I'll promote him to panelist. I think that's what, at the last meeting, we had an issue with his mic, so I promoted him to
Sure,
panelist,
that's
so I'll
fine.
do that now.
Oh, can you hear me
Oh,
now?
there we go.
Yes, Supervisor.
I'm in first grade when it comes to computers, probably not even that far. For some reason, you thought my hand was raised, but if it was by accident. I will just wait for some comments that I have when my name comes up on the agenda.
All right, thank you.
Next person on the list is Lourdes Perez. I will unmute your mic.
Good afternoon, City Council and staff. I just want to provide a very quick comment in regards to the renaming of the Eastgate Park to Ochoa Park.
Excuse me, Ms. Perez. We have that listed as an agenda item. And so at that point, when we get to item 12, you're more than welcome to comment.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
And I
We have
believe that's
no
all we
other-
have on the list.
All right, so we will move on to appointments to boards and commissions.
Here, I apologize. On Zoom, we have no other requests. I did receive an email
Oh,
at 6
okay.
o'clock.
Yes,
If you'd
thank
like, I could read that. Person's name, and I'm probably going to pronounce it incorrectly, but it's Denianne Yolu. She says, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this, but there is a 15-year-old boy who has autism and has been missing from his group home in Ceres since September 28th. 2 weeks ago today, he went missing. I happen to know the police are well aware of who I'm talking about, as this same kid is known for leaving the group home. The sad part is I found him laying in front of the Dollar Tree General Store at 10 p.m. on Saturday, September 26th. I went and sat next to him to talk to him. He told me he didn't want to go back to the group home because they are mean to him and he is scared of the guy with the bat. He told me he wanted to sleep in the park. I told him it wasn't safe for him to sleep in the park. He kept telling me his feet hurt. I was finally able to get him to agree to go back to the group home, and I promised I would do what I can to help him. The police ended up showing up at the store. I asked an officer if he would be able to give the boy a ride home. The officer said no. The officer also informed me that this kid often runs away from the group home. I asked the officer, why hasn't something been done to help him? He is leaving for a reason. The officer said, we have contacted every social worker and CPS in Stanislaus County, and no one wants to help him. I said that this is unacceptable, and I will do everything I can to help him. The officer basically said, good luck, and I will be wasting my time. I told him, you don't know me. I'm not that type of person who gives up. The officer said, if I can get someone to listen to me, then I would have all the Ceres PD back me up because they wanted to see this kid in a safe place. I reached out to 2 mothers who have been helping me. The 3 of us found out he was missing. Found out he went missing last week, and if we have been doing everything to find him. All I would like to see is for the police to do an actual investigation. They know this kid, and he's always at one of the 2 places, Dollar General or Smyrna Park, and he has never been missing this long. It doesn't matter if this kid is in foster care or not. He is a person, and he deserves to be found. Please reach out to me if you need any more information. Thank you.
Chief Collins, did you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that we have been doing an investigation since we took the initial report on September 28th. We have an officer assigned to investigations who's been following up on this young man's status since September 29th. Over the weekend, I did some research and he is still missing. Today, we received a tip that he was spotted at a park in Modesto. We sent 2 investigators to that park. I myself went and spoke to several people in the park that had not seen him. The 2 investigators continued to look at areas that they were told he was either at the park or on McHenry, and came back to Ceres to continue the search. Since that time, the officer in charge of the case has reached out to a Modesto Police Department community service officer who is in charge of working missing persons, and has shared that information with that CSO. And they have a timeline if he is at the park in Modesto of what time he gets up and leaves, and they will follow up on that as well. In the interim, the officer has also been working with a social worker in Sacramento and a caseworker at the National Center for Missing Children. If Mrs. I don't want to pronounce her name. If Deanne would like for me to reach out to her personally, I can go over the case in more in depth to let her know what we have done thus far.
Thank you, Chief Collins. All right, so we will move on to appointments to boards and commissions. We have none. Conflict of interest declaration. Is there anyone on the council that would like to conflict out on any of the agenda items tonight? There are none. Consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion unless otherwise requested by an individual council member or public for special consideration. Otherwise, the recommendation of staff will be accepted and acted upon by roll call vote. Is there anyone on the council that would like to have a consent item pulled? No. Is there anyone in the audience that would like a consent item pulled? City Clerk, did you receive anything?
No, I did not.
Is there a motion to accept the consent calendar?
Yeah, move to approve 1, 2, 3A, 4, 5AB, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council and Agency Member Condit,
Aye.
Council and Agency Member Durosset.
Yes.
Council and Agency Member Klein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor and Chairperson Rhino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Consideration of items removed from the consent calendar, there are none. Unfinished business, there is none. Public hearing, there is none. New business, number 10, resolution number 2020-107 of the City Council of the City of Ceres, approving the execution and delivery of an installment purchase agreement for the purpose of causing the issuance of not to exceed 22 million aggregate principal amount of water system revenue bonds, Series 2020, and approving the execution and delivery of certain documents in connection therewith and certain other matters. Staff, could we have a presentation?
Thank you, Vice Mayor and council members. Tonight, the city's our financial consultants will be giving a presentation on the bridge financing plan for the surface water treatment project. So this bridge plan is to bridge the gap between where we are today and when we get the SRF funding for the overall project. With this is Rick Brandis and Tallman Investment Banking. Reed Glyer, attorney from the law offices of Stradling, and Doug Anderson, who will be giving the presentation with Urban Futures, specializing in public financing. Doug, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. As you know, the city is a member of the Stanislaus Regional Water Authority, and the authority is currently working on the Regional Surface Water Supply Project. Project costs will be funded by the City of Ceres, City of Turlock, and the Turlock Irrigation District. The authority and the cities plan to eventually fund the project costs through the State Revolving Fund, or SRF for short. The SRF financing is in process but will not be funded until sometime next year. Between now and the eventual SRF funding date, each city has agreed to fund its share of the initial cost through cash and/or interim financing arranged by each city. We have been working with staff and the city's finance team to develop a financing structure that will provide the interim loan proceeds necessary to cover the city's share of project costs until the SRF loan is funded. The total project costs are expected to be approximately $285 million, with the City of Ceres share expected to be approximately $89 million. For this interim financing, we are expecting net proceeds of $20 million to cover the initial costs of the project until the State Revolving Fund proceeds can kick in. Once those SRF funds are received by the authority, each city's project costs will be, each short-term issue will be paid off, with the exception of interest and issuance costs. There are two resolutions for your consideration tonight, one for the city and one for the financing authority. The financing authority will actually be the issuer of the short-term bonds. We'd be happy to answer any specific questions that you have. Oh, I'm sorry, one more note. I think it's important to note we are, as we mentioned, the City of Turlock will be doing the same thing. We have been in contact with their financing team. We will do our best to match up our short-term structure with their short-term structure so that when the state monies come in, each of those short-term issues can be paid off. Happy to answer any questions that you have, and our team members are here as well.
Does anyone on the council have a question? Anyone in the audience have a question? Do you have anything, City Clerk?
No, Vice Mayor, I do not.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move to adopt resolution 2020-107.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council and Agency Member Condit,
Aye.
Council and Agency Member Durosset,
Yes.
Council and Agency Member Klein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor and Vice Chairperson Rhino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
And the other item in front of us is the resolution of the Board of Directors of the Ceres Financing Authority. Is there a motion for that?
Move to adopt resolution 2020-01. Second.
Roll call, please.
Council and Agency Member Condit.
Aye.
Council and Agency Member DeRosset.
Yes.
Council and Agency Member Klein.
Yes.
Vice Mayor and Chairperson Rhino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
The next item is discussion item, naming of Eastgate Park. Discussion and direction, Mr. Westbrook.
Thank you, Vice Chair, council members. So at the meeting of September 14th, council asked staff if there was a policy, or actually asked staff about renaming a park. So we're bringing back that discussion this evening. So back, based upon our research, back in 2005, it appears that the city adopted a policy for renaming of parks, or consideration of renaming of parks and or facilities within the city. That process was really generated. At the time, there were 3 neighborhood parks that were planned in the future. One of those on the west side, one on the east side, and one on the north side of the town. And so there was an ad hoc committee created through the council. Names were generated from the public, and then those were submitted for consideration. Those 3 parks ended up being Ceres Lions Park, which is yet to be constructed. It's on the north side of town. Sam Rhino Park, which is on the west side of town, which is developed. In addition to Neal Park, which is on the east side of town off of Fowler Road. So that was the process that was done for those 3 parks. Now, the consideration, as the council is aware and members of the public, Eastgate Park is currently under construction. That park is under construction. The contract was awarded by the council at the April 13th meeting. Shortly thereafter, the contracts were signed. That park has been known as Eastgate Park for some time. Additionally, it was in 2015 when the city started the Parks and Recreation Master Plan for the city. At that point in time, Eastgate Park, which is now known, was included as Eastgate Park in that document, which was ultimately approved by the council at a meeting in March of 2016. So as we move forward in time, as I mentioned, the contract has been awarded, construction is taking place, and so the contractor has ordered the sign for the Eastgate Park. So if there's consideration with renaming that, we have a sign that exists today that says Eastgate Park. Staff has not reached out to the manufacturer to see if that could be altered in any way, but that is a potential possible option. So this evening, just happy to answer any questions that the council may have. But again, the policy to name parks was adopted in 2005. And that's what we had found that was utilized for 3 parks that were named, I think, in around the 2006 timeframe. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
And you said that the sign was ordered and it's actually with the contractor and it costs $12,786. Is that correct?
Part of the contract that was signed, the council authorized in April. The contract was shortly signed thereafter in May. At that point in time, when the contract signed, the contractor starts to purchase the equipment that he needs to install and build the park. And so at that time, the sign was ordered. Currently, the sign does exist. It was delivered to the contractor at the beginning of last month and is set to be installed. And so as the construction continues in the park, they're at a point where they would be digging the foundation and creating the forms and laying the concrete work for the eventual installation of a sign. And so they're doing that within the next couple of weeks. Pending direction from the council and then direction provided by staff. So the sign is made and it is ready to be installed. However, we can delay that process if need be.
Thank you. Councilmember Condit.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I want to thank the council for hearing this discussion tonight. I brought this in front of the council with the recommendation that we rename Eastgate Park in honor of Councilmember Guillermo Ochoa. I think Mr. Ochoa was a fine example for our city. He represented the absolute best of what Ceres has to offer. I think it would be a great gesture for his legacy, for his family, and for our community. Now, with that being said, I would be willing to support fully naming the park in his honor tonight. I'd also be willing to support moving forward with the 2005 process. I would hope that the council would consider moving this process forward, at least allowing the public to have input. And I would like to also bring up the fact that we did just approve receiving grants tonight, approximately $175,000 from the state. I've discussed with Mr. Westbrook, and I asked him to investigate if we can use any of that grant funding towards this project and getting the sign established if we do decide to go with the renaming. I also did some proactive work by contacting Sue Jordan, who is the owner of Sign Your Way. Maybe we can put this out to bid, but I did ask her if it was possible to replaster a sign such as this. She said it's absolutely possible. She actually even gave me a quote. She quoted us at approximately $100 per letter. That would essentially come out rounded up to $2,000. So I do think that it is absolutely possible to recycle and refurbish the current sign we have in our possession that is under the ownership of the city. And we could probably get a pretty good deal, roughly $2,000. So I would hope that the council would at least move this project forward and we can have public input. Thank you very much.
One thing I'd wanted to mention, Vice Mayor Rhino, is that over the last couple of days since the publication of the staff report online, staff has received approximately around 85 emails from folks that are interested in and supportive of renaming the park, Guillermo Ochoa Park.
Thank you. Councilmember DeRosset.
Yeah, I got to say that, I had the opportunity to serve with Guillermo, and I know the mayor did as well, and I know the mayor's not here right now. I can't think of a better way to remember such a great person. I learned a lot from him during that time, serving with him for those 4 years. And, I'm going to agree with Councilmember Condit in regards to that, there's a process that has to take place, 2005. I think we need to go through that process. I know I did have a chance to talk to his daughter, Kimberly, the day after Councilmember Condit had brought it to the attention of the council that, this would be a great way to honor an individual that did a lot of great things for the community and who's diverse. I told her in that conversation, and I still feel the same way today, that I think that's a great plan. We do have to take the proper steps. And, I think that we'll go on that. One last thought. I remember a couple months before Guillermo passed away, he came to the city council meeting and he talked about the park. He talked about the park in regards to how important he felt it was for the people at Eastgate for it to be complete. And I think that this is just an opportunity, great opportunity to show the respect that he deserves. And obviously he's gotten that. And that's all I have right now.
Well, I would agree to the point that we do have a process in place, the resolution that was adopted by the former council. And just as we named a couple of our parks using that process, I think it would only be fair to all of the citizens of Ceres if we do the same process. And it's not just we receive a name because of a letter writing campaign, because that doesn't allow all of the community to be involved. And I would hope that we could have a motion tonight that we could move forward with the process that we've done previously. Councilmember Klein?
I do agree with you. Before I get on the city council, the city council put together a criteria and a way of process of doing this. So, even with the outcry of letters that, we've all got in the last couple of days, I know that it would most likely, if not definitely, go that way. But to make it, we need to go with the process and go through with it. So I think all of us on the city council agree that, this is the direction it's going to go. but to stay in accordance with what the city council has adopted, I think we need to go through with that process.
Thank you. Should we go ahead and open it to the public, or do we want a motion from the council? It sounds like
I would make the motion.
It's not a public hearing, so I don't know that we need
Well, we
a
don't need
motion. It's just a discussion item. Is that correct, City Attorney?
Yeah, unless people have asked to speak about it, you can just go ahead and make the motion.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this matter?
If I may,
sure.
before we start, Vice Mayor Rhino, and so I think it's pretty clear that the direction is bring an item back to talk about the ad hoc committee and its formation.
Correct.
I think it's certainly doable to have that at the next city council meeting. I think, and additionally, following up to what I would recommend is following up on Councilman Condit's desire is the city reaching out to the manufacturer of the sign that we have, just to figure out what the cost would be if it was to utilize that existing sign. It's pretty substantial. It weighs thousands of pounds. And so I think there's probably something that can be done. We hadn't taken that step yet because we're waiting for this evening. So what I'm envisioning is having the contractor move forward with digging the forms and laying the pad, the foundation for the actual sign itself, but then not installing anything, and then just kind of stopping at that point. And so that would be my recommendation moving forward.
Well, what would bother me about that is, what if they go ahead and set it all for that? We find out we can't modify the sign and we have to do a new sign. I mean, that would worry me, that we go ahead and do this artwork in preparation for the very same sign, and then we find out they can't modify it. So we go out to bid and we find someone who can do it cheaper and give us the quality sign, but it maybe won't be the same dimensions. And here we've got the footing and everything.
I think that the concrete pad, and Jeremy and or Daniel can correct me where I'm wrong. The concrete pad, these signs are pretty standard in the industry. So we believe that any new sign, if we can't utilize the existing one, will be pretty similar dimensions, and the concrete pad has to be poured anyway. So just putting whatever sign that is ultimately, whether it's the refurbished sign or a new sign, it would go in the same location.
So when they place that sign, it's flat all the way on the bottom, correct?
Correct. And usually,
So then it basically just lays on the cement. It's not like it's cut out.
Sometimes what they do is they will drill into the concrete, or they will set rebar and they'll set the sign on top of it in epoxy. So we don't really lose any ground by having them continue the work in the park to finish it off. And
Sure.
then when the sign's available, it can be placed.
Sure, that sounds like maybe what we should go ahead and do.
And I would recommend also reaching out to Stu Jordan. I know the Signs Your Way, they do signs for the Ceres Unified School District. She said it shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. I'm sure the contractor can handle it themselves, but she did give me an estimate of $2,000.
Yeah, if Councilman Condit, if you can provide me the contact, I'll certainly reach out.
You got it.
Okay, so do we want to go ahead and open it to the public? And I see Ms. Mantero is up to speak.
Ms. Mantero, I'll unmute your mic.
Hi, good evening, council members. This is a privilege for me to be able to present to you this evening, because I was on the council when we first developed Eastgate and set aside an area for park for a day in the future when we can afford to actually have one. So it gives me great pleasure to be able to weigh in on this. And the only thing I would offer would be, in the memory and spirit of Guillermo Ochoa, whatever we can do in this process to fast track and expedite the actual process that we created back in 2005. Of course, with transparency and fairness, a premium, the opportunity to recognize a community leader and member, just like Sam Rhino is recognized in a park, is such a momentous occasion that the community needs to be able to feel like they're a part of it. And I appreciate the opportunity the council has taken to ensure that the process is intact. I just want to strongly recommend that whatever can be done to fast track the process, so the community members who have taken the time to write, email, call, feel as though they're engaged in the process and not be let down because of the time and the situation that our nation's been in. So I appreciate the opportunity to present tonight, and I'm really glad to see this opportunity to recognize a fine member of our community.
Thank you. Do you have any emails, City Clerk?
No, Vice Mayor, I do not have any emails.
And do we have anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Yeakley?
Mr. Yeakley, I'll unmute your mic.
Yes, I'm a little, hello? Yeah, I'm a little confused on the requirements for naming a park. Could you kind of go over that?
Sure. When the City Council adopted Resolution 2005-248, they set guidelines for naming parks and recreation facilities. And within 6 months, there was supposed to be an ad hoc committee. And then there would be naming requests, and that would be done through probably public hearing notice, social media. I'm not really sure, but it'll be put out to all of the community. The criteria for naming a park facility is consideration shall be given to naming a park or recreation facility after a geographical location, a theme, or of historical significance. Persons, organization, or businesses that donate over 50% of the cost of the city site acquisition and/or development. Persons who have successfully volunteered working with youth or adults recreation programs for a minimum of 10 years, and persons who have lived in Ceres for at least 10 years and have a record of outstanding citizenship. And that was what the council adopted in 2005.
Yes, I understand that part.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people that have contributed to the betterment of Ceres through the years in various ways. But none of those categories, I think, fell into the one I was thinking about. And all these people, a lot of people live in the city. They gave it their all to make us to where we're at today in life. And that would be all the veterans that are living in Ceres and around the United States, and some that are veterans that live outside the country. And I think personally, you know, if I could get a form to fill that out, I would fill it out for a veterans park with all the insignias of all the branches of the armed forces. But I don't know if I can do that because it doesn't seem to fit your criteria.
Well, I would think persons, it could be a group of persons who have successfully volunteered working with youth or adult recreation. I mean, what you could do is you could submit it, and then it goes to the ad hoc committee, and they would make the determination whether or not it fell within that criteria. And then it would come before the council, whatever names were selected, and then the council would ultimately make the decision.
Are they going, this committee going to answer all the input from the citizens that submit something?
What was your question?
This committee you're talking about, the committee you're talking about that will review the requests for the different names of the park or whatever, they're going to answer all these requests?
Well, I believe they will take them all under advisement and make a decision and then put it to the council for the actual decision.
I think some people might want a reason why, you know, for their particular input. You know, there's probably quite a few people that are interested in having the park named after someone in the city or whatever, but, you know, it's only going to be one person or one thing. And, you know, there might be a reason for someone to say, why not? You know, why did you not pick me? So,
Well, so your question is, if people submit a name, that they should receive a reply that yes, it will be considered and going to the council? Is that what your question is?
yeah, that would be part of it. And if there's some kind of a no, that they could put them that it doesn't fall into the criteria of naming parks and series.
Well, I would hope that the ad hoc committee, if they determine it doesn't meet either or any of those 4 items, that in their letter they would say, thank you, but it did not meet the criteria.
Right, right. I think that would be sufficient enough to give these people that are wanting to put a name out there, at least they get an answer instead of nothing. So I hope the city council, whoever gets this committee together, whatever, that should be brought forward, that each one of these individuals that submit something gets an answer, so they're not out there in, limbo land or something. Thank you. I hope they do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeakley. All right, so I need to bring it back to the council, and we aren't going to do a motion, but just the general, we all agree. Is that what we're going to do?
To bring it back for the process is my understanding.
Okay. Excuse me, Mr. Padilla?
Hello? Yeah, as far as managing our contractor and the current contract we have in place right now, their working days actually expired today, so they were supposed to be done with their work today. So they're under some pressure to complete the project as soon as possible. And I'm wondering if the council would support just installing the sign as it is, because shipping costs alone are going to be a couple $1,000s. It's a very heavy sign, like Mr. Westbrook mentioned. And then we can go out to bid and have somebody go out there and fix the sign at the park site. Whether they get a plate or epoxy into the existing sign. I think that's probably going to be the most cost-effective way to complete it, and also to be able to complete the current contract that we have with our current contractor. It's an extremely heavy sign. You can't just ship it to where we got it from and then have them ship it back. And then as far as like I mentioned, the contract, we're trying to complete the project as soon as possible, probably within the next 2 weeks. So I just would prefer that this doesn't delay our contract or completion date a month or 2 or 3, whatever it might be.
Thank you. Mr. Councilmember Klein.
I understand where Mr. Padilla is coming from, but I believe the council, we all agree on a direction that we need to do it for the process, and that Mr. Westbrook is going to reach out to the manufacturer, see what the things are going to, how it can be altered. And I think when you reach out to him, I think you need to ask him what's the best case scenario for it to be altered, because I think that if it comes back that it's going to be changed to Guillermo Ochoa Park, that we don't want to have it say Eastgate and then all of a sudden change it in midstream. So I think we need to reach out to the sign, the person in the sign, and if we have to let it set for a little bit and change a few things, then I think that's better than to have a sign that says one thing and then all of a sudden, a month or two down the road, we're replastering it. Mm-hmm. So I think that, Mr. Westbrook, you will probably reach out to the sign manufacturer, go through the process, see what the best case scenario is. And, however this comes out, whether it's Guillermo Ochoa Park or like Mr. Yeagley said, Veterans Park, that we can go from there and have it put in place.
Councilmember DeRosset.
Yeah, I was just going to say the exact same thing, but I think you said it better than I did. So I appreciate you saying that. I think maybe what we also need to do is speed up the process, because if there is some costs that are going to accumulate, that maybe we have a special meeting next week. Is there a day next week that we can get together and get the ad hoc committee started ASAP? It's not going to take very long.
Well,
to say, hey, these are the, we already should have the blueprint of how to have the ad hoc committee.
Well, we do, but I think you have to allow a certain amount of time for the public to have input.
Right.
Right.
So the longer we put this off, I'm going in regards to what Mr. Padilla was saying, that, you know, I mean, okay, that might save us a week. How much money could that save the city? I don't know. I just think that, you know what, you don't put nothing in that until you have it all figured out.
I think I would agree with that. That we don't want to set it. We want to go ahead and pour the cement foundation, but we don't want to set it because who knows what's going to be involved with modifications, if they would want to do it on that side or if they'd rather do it somewhere else.
Right.
And so if we bring that back to the next meeting, we should be able to do two things at the same meeting. One, we'll have a better understanding of what it's actually going to take to alter the sign. And then two, we can set the ad hoc committee at the same time. So we'll know
Perfect.
if it's in place would be just as easy if it was somewhere else. Well, we should have an understanding of what would be the best route to move forward with the sign.
Perfect. Thank you. So the council is all okay with that?
Yes.
Yes, I would make the motion to move forward with the 2005 process.
Okay, the city attorney said we didn't need a
Okay.
motion, so we're all good. You understand?
Wonderful.
that Staff understands the direction that you're going and you'll take care of that.
Yes.
Hey, are there any council members that would like to have an agenda item placed on a future agenda? Seeing none. Are there any reports tonight? Councilmember Klein, do you have a report? Councilmember Klein, do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Nothing.
Councilmember Condit?
Nothing tonight.
City Manager?
I don't have anything to report this evening.
City Attorney?
Nothing to report.
Ms. Diaz? Chief Collins? Captain? Mr. Damas? Oh my goodness. Mr. Padilla?
For me, I'm going to, because the contractor on Eastgate Park is going to be wrapping up the construction in 2 weeks, I think what I heard from you is that we'll have, because I don't want to have the contractor on the hook for the sign. So what I was thinking was we would deliver to our courtyard and then hire a different contractor to modify the sign and not install it and not do anything at the park. Is that correct?
Well, you're telling me that the contractor isn't going to be done for a couple of weeks, correct?
Yes.
And we're going to have our meeting in a couple of weeks, so we should know in 2 weeks at our meeting the direction we're going to go, whether we want to put the sign on that cement pad or if we are going to do modifications at a different site. Is that correct? We can do that, correct?
Yeah, I think that what Mr. Padilla is trying to allude to is that the contractor may be able to deliver the sign sooner than that. So if that's the case and the meeting hasn't happened, we'll just have to have the sign delivered to our courtyard.
I need to give the contractor direction like tonight or tomorrow morning at 7 in the morning. I mean, they're going to start working on that footing, and they were going to install the sign this week.
Then the sign can just go to the courtyard.
When they do that cement and the footing, it doesn't have to sit. They can just put this very heavy sign on it.
Probably sits there for maybe 2 or 3 days, and then they would set the sign on that footing. So I would like to provide the contractor direction tomorrow morning. That's why I was leaning towards having the contractor deliver the sign to our courtyard or somewhere else where it's secure, and then wait for more direction so we could complete our project.
Do you have room in your backyard? No, just kidding. Just kidding. What was?
Sign that right.
Where it's at the contractor's job.
In Oakdale.
It's in his yard. Is that correct? His
Correct.
work yard.
if it's in Oakdale, I mean, why can't we just leave it there till we decide what we do, or he finds out more information?
We don't have a good enough relationship with them that we could just leave it there?
Well, like I mentioned, the time for completion and the liquidated damages and other negotiations we had with the contractor.
Ended today, so they didn't even meet their contract, correct? Because they're not done, and it's not because of us.
Correct.
Okay. So what would the council like to do?
So just take it to the yard.
Do we
We have room
have
at
a
the
place
yard?
to put it at the yard?
We can find a place to put it at a city facility that's secure, yes.
And would it be, when it's placed, because it's so heavy, would it be in a place that if we do and we can have modification, that it will be easily accessible? It's not going to be like tucked in a corner where they can't access it and we have to hire a crane to come, not a Captain Crane, but another crane to move it?
We'll work with Jeremy to make sure that it's in a location that's accessible and in a secured facility.
Thank you. Did you have something to add,
No,
Councilmember?
he answered the question.
Thank you. Mr. Lord, did you have anything tonight?
Couple things. Very exciting news. We've started our fall classes outdoors. Some of them held over here at Whitmore Park, others held at Smyrna under the cover picnic shelter, and we're hoping from some good news from the governor, I was going to say the mayor, but the governor, that we can maybe reopen the community center very soon to begin offering church services in here, but also over the Presbyterian Church is dying to get into American Legion Hall. Our trunk or treat event, how we understand, is tomorrow we're going to get guidance from the governor. That good old governor is going to let us know if we can have that event. Once we get approval, we will be announcing the location. We've been working closely over with PD to find an excellent location that is safe and will provide the best access for as many people that want to attend that are Surrey's residents to get goodie bags through our drive-through trunk or treat. Last is we are working with the businesses that used to be in the facility the past 2 years. That's Walmart, that's Silgan Containers, Yosemite Meats, to try to get them back in here and work with them cooperatively to see if they can use, maybe they were in the small assembly, get them into large assembly, that they can start doing their trainings that are social distancing. And last, I had a great meeting with Councilmember Councilman Durase and Councilmember Klein regarding summer concerts in the park, and we have some exciting things to announce in the next coming months. So please join us. We still have room available in our classes, I want to tell residents, and we look forward to seeing you. And we're glad to be back in offering classes and programs.
Thank you. Supervisor DeMartini, do you have anything tonight?
Yes, I just have an update on the grants that the county is giving out. They will, it's before the board tomorrow morning. And what we have is $10 million worth of grants of 441 different applicants. It's taken us longer to score everybody than we thought, because we only expected around 500 applications, and we got 1,333. So those anybody who scored 72% or higher got the grant. There is a possibility that the board will increase the amount of money in there by a couple of $1 million, and probably most likely that'll happen to anybody who scored 70% or better. But we'll have to see. That's discussion item tomorrow. Anyway, once the board approves it, which is almost a sure thing, the businesses that won the application will be contacted with requesting their bank information for electronic transfers, or they do have an option of us sending them a check too. And that process will probably start tomorrow or the next day, and all the money should be distributed within a few days. I just wanted to give you that update.
Thank you. City Clerk, do you have anything? Then tonight's meeting is adjourned until Monday, October the 26th.